Hi, this is Neil from Cowmeadow.com. Today I'm trying to walk you through the three broad types of six-string guitar that you might consider when you're beginning to learn to play. What the characteristics are, the upside and the downside of each particular type. Now, the conventional wisdom is that you should start on a nylon-strung classical guitar like this one. It's not a particularly big body, 6 strings, as you can probably see here. 3 of them are wrapped with metal to add mass to them so that they'll sound lower than the straightforward plastic nylon strings at the top here. This is the older of the 3 varieties I'm going to be showing you today. Now, I personally love the sound of classical guitars because they have a certain warmth, a very elegant, gentle tone, and there is almost to me that's the sound of Spain. Forget about anything else. For me, that's the sound of Spain. It's someone playing with the nails. It's a great sound. However, I'm a guitar teacher, so I want to just flag up a couple of issues about this, because I think that as technology has evolved and the marketplace and the world of guitars changed, the old advice no longer really applies. First things first about this, they're the hardest member of the guitar family to play, and here's why. The fretboard. The fretboard on classical guitars are dead flat, there's no curvature to them at all, and they're very broad. Now this is great if you want to get your fingers in between the strings like this to pick individuals, but if you're just looking to do a bit of chord strumming, have a bit of fun, awful, because the flat fretboard makes chords very difficult to play. Now, especially if you're using bar chords, which I'm a huge fan of, like this, the throw across there is difficult. As you can see, I have tiny little hands, so some of the reaches on this are quite big. My technique's pretty clean. My thumb never comes over the top unless I'm after something in particular, so I'm maximising my usage for my fingers. But the breadth of the fretboard makes it difficult for people. Now, people say that nylon strings are easier to press down than steel strings. That's BS. It's just wrong now. It's actually possibly a little bit. These are medium tension strings, and I think this plays with a little bit more force than the steel string guitar I'm going to show you in a moment. So I'll just put this one away. Do you like the sound of this one? I'll pop this one back on the rack and grab another one. Right then, this big girl is a development of the classical guitar. It's got steel strings. Now they can add significantly more tension than the nylon strings in a classical guitar, which means that the bodies have to be more carefully constructed and more heavily braced inside. So these are a little bit more difficult to make than a classical guitar wooden box. However, these are easy to play once they're properly set up, and I'll always say once they're properly set up, because most guitars leave the factory and they're a complete bag of crap, because the final finish and the setup and calibration of an instrument at the factory is time consuming. It's a high skill thing. I do it routinely with my guitars and those of my customers, but things will move in shipping, so for a lot of makers it's not worth the time. So here are the reasons why these are easy to play. The strings on a steel string guitar can sit closer to the fretboard than on a classical, so the actual press distance here can be made very short, so they're easy to play. The strings can be taken down in thickness to 0.010 of an inch or below even. I don't go any lower than 11s on mine, but that's a personal preference. The fretboards are considerably narrower side to side than a classical guitar on most steel string acoustics. There are a few quirky little designs with very broad fretboards that are very flat, and I just think avoid them unless you're after a problem for yourself. The other major factor, and you might be able to see it on this, is the curvature of the fretboard, and that's just across here. You can see there's an arch from side to side between the bass side of the board. It comes up over a crown and then dives down here. That makes it easier to play some chords, especially the bar chords, which I like. You can see the sound here is way more sparkly than the nylon-strung guitar. Now that's with the soft part of my thumb. If I hit it with my nails, which is a conventional thing, it becomes incredibly bright and zingy. I don't care much for that sound, but what I do a lot of is flat picking with a plastic plectrum. This is a medium light pick and it's quite loud, very zingy, so as I'm strumming across the strings I can generate a great deal of volume. Now that can be a big problem, particularly in modern small houses. One of the things I really like about this particular guitar is it's cut narrow in the waist, so although it's a huge big body, it sits low down on me. The dreadnought guitars, which are broader in the waist, I think are a very poor fit, and I'll go into that on the acoustic video which I'll film after this. So I wouldn't spend time on a classical guitar unless you're going to be playing lots of classical. If you must play acoustic, steel string's probably the way to go because it's a more modern sound. So if you take something like that. So a nice sound. But my favourite guitar of all is the electric, and I think that they're the easiest to play and they're probably the best choice for a beginner. I'll grab my electric, well, one of them, and I'll show you why I think that's the case. Okay, so this is Doris, my old red Telecaster. As you can see, this is comparatively tiny. It's a very small body, it's easy to move around. It's also a dirty big solid lump of wood. So for a beginner, if you're going to be knocking things around, the electric guitar is going to stand up to that better, particularly with kids. Kids are good at smashing things up. Wooden boxes are delicate. Great big planks like this are way tougher. Now, for parents especially, and for kids who are trying to get a guitar at your parents, the most important thing about this is electric guitars are quiet. You see, the body of an electric guitar isn't designed to amplify the sound. It's only there as a support to hold onto the strings and the electronics and to give the player a platform on which to perform. Without the amplifier, all your guitar makes is about as loud as, well, say my laptop on quarter volume. So it's actually a very sociable instrument. Physically, the strings can be made incredibly close to the fretboard because I'm not looking to put a great deal of movement in the strings and flap the top of an acoustic guitar around. I'm just looking to push a few electrons around a coil. The fretboards on this acoustic guitar, for instance, have quite a pronounced arch to them. Some makes, like Ibanez, use a very flat fretboard, which makes them great for shredding, but they make it a lot harder for players to learn chords, and bar chords especially. So they're great if you want to be Wangy Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, you know, choose your shredder of choice. Go for something with a fretboard raised between 9 and 12 inches. 14 at a push like the PRSs. Avoid the higher end Ibanez unless you're into shredding. This is my frank and nice advice on that. It's not a slight against the brand. Ibanez are phenomenally consistent, but that particular fretboard for a beginner is probably going to be a liability. So the great thing about electric guitar is its compactness, its ease of play, its just amazingly easy to play. It also is capable of producing a bigger range of sounds. The actual sound of the guitar itself is that. It's meh, to say the least. But the moment I start to add in the amplifier, because you're always working through a whole system, the guitar starts to come to life. So that's just one pickup active here at the bridge. It's quite a nice bright zingy sound. I've got a tone control here at the back, which crackles for some bizarre reason. So I can go from quite woolly sounds here on the neck pickup. I've got a very mellow, warm, woofly jazz sound through maybe blues. Bringing that up all the way. Starts to get a bit funky. I've got multiple switching. So I can get quite choppy with that. At the bridge position here, I've got incredibly bright sounds that'll absolutely slice your head off in a mix. And I've got a slightly thicker, rollier sound, a little bit more robust. And that's just the variation on the guitar itself. When I start to use external effects, I can mangle that sound up from something which is incredibly noisy like this, and this is where being electric is totally the best ever. I can put that into headphones and I'll have this sound, and all the external world is going to hear is this, and me going yes, because I'm still a little bit excitable as far as guitars go. So my money's on electric guitar every time. I can put myself into something that sounds a bit like a cathedral with one of these and just listen to those echoes shimmer away. I can make it slightly bluesy like this, a little bit more driven kind of sound. Again, it sounds pretty cool. Switch pickups and it'll get a little bit brighter. Turn both these pickup coils on and then as I change the amplifier setting here, I'm using the foot pedal. And I can moderate that sound using a simple volume pedal. So from this, I can go really loud. So if you're thinking of getting yourself a guitar, and if you're not thinking of getting yourself a guitar, you should start thinking about it right now. Don't think too much about how much fun you're going to have playing. Start looking at electric guitars if you're after that particular sound. If you're after an acoustic, go for a steel strung guitar. If you want to play classical or flamenco, look at the appropriate guitar for that type of music. I hope this video helps you out. Get in touch. My email address is info@neilcowmeadow.com. Hit me up on Facebook and I'll add you to the group. And happy strumming. Look forward to speaking to you in the future. Bye for now.